am the North Central Regional Emergency Specialist, so I do cover Orange County, and I also am the planner for North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Emergency Programs. So I'm quite involved with a lot of different things, but Leah's in response mode. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay. I'm Dr. Anna Allen, and I'm a veterinarian with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Emergency Programs Division, and I serve the eastern region of North Carolina. So we've circled Ashley's area there in the coral color, and my area there is in light blue. And as regional specialists, we work with county partners in our regions to help all counties be better prepared to respond to and recover from any emergencies or disasters that involve animals or agriculture.
All right, now we're going to meet the audience. Does anybody want to tell us who they are, what type of farming, why did you decide to attend this workshop, and what do you hope to learn?
We probably don't have time to hear from everybody, but if we have a few people who would like to share, please do. Yes, great, thank you. We want this to be very interactive, so please talk to us.
Hi, I'm Angela Aiken through Aiken Farm in Castle County. The type of farming we do is like vegetables, fruits, and herbs, and we just started cutting flowers, and we just stepped into livestock. We have pigs and chickens. Why did we attend this? For more information, just like everybody else, you know? What do we hope to learn? The ins and outs of the workshop and learning different things.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else want to share? We'd love to hear who we've got. Yeah.
I'm Ashley Parker, Parker Farm and Vineyard. I farm with my family in Hurdle Mills in North Orange County. We have root crops, livestock, we do vegetables and cut flowers. And I was excited to attend this workshop just because I saw, we all are on social media and, we follow different farms and stuff, and you hear about different farm disasters people have and they give you tips. I think one kind of tip that I got that made me more interested in learning is all of our farms don't have street numbers. We don't know the street numbers of all of our farms if they're not right by our house. If we were to have an emergency, I wouldn't know how to tell somebody. And I was like, that's probably really important. So just to get some more tips and stuff like that to figure out how to protect our farm and our family.
Great, thank you. We'll take one or two more. Someone else want to share? Your friend?
Yeah.
Were you waving at somebody?
I'm just a home gardener, and we have chickens. My name is Lorraine, and I'm just a home gardener, and we have chickens, and I really came to learn more about bird flu.
Okay. Anybody else want to know about bird flu? We'll talk a little bit about that. Great, thank you so much for sharing. So what I heard from the three people that shared, and I'm sure this is true for the others of you in the audience who are doing any kind of farming, is diversity on the farm. Y'all are producing a lot of different commodities, which is great because if one of them is affected, you might have some backups and things like that. But there could be some challenges to being that diverse and trying to prepare for all the different things that can happen that can affect all those different things. So thank you so much for sharing.
All right, we're going to do a brief overview of our Emergency Programs Division. So emergency programs, for our mission, the mission of emergency programs is to support the agriculture community and protect consumers by coordinating the department's efforts to prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergency events and public health concerns that could impact agriculture. For preparedness, we do a lot of planning and plan writing, that's me, training and exercises, conducting and participating in. So we do participate in a lot of the county exercises that go on. Taking courses to maintain and improve our knowledge and skills, maintaining equipment and supplies in our warehouse, and building, maintaining, and strengthening partnerships with individuals and organizations that we would most likely work with during an emergency. In regards to responding, when an emergency does occur that involves animals or agriculture community, we may be activated from within the department, or we may be providing assistance that may be requested by another state. So we do go to other states and help assist with response with them. We use the incident command system to organize into a team to respond to requests for assistance. We communicate with all of our partners during a response, and it's really important for us to have the coordinated and safe response, no matter what response it is. For recovery, after the response phase of an incident is over, we move into the recovery mode. Our main roles in recovery include continuing to share information and resources with all the agencies and partners involved, review our response activities, and improve our plans, capabilities for the next incident. We continue to build and improve upon it with our partnerships. As you can see, we stay quite busy throughout the year. Our team, the Emergency Programs team division, is currently fully staffed. Yay, with 17 people. We have our director, Kelly, she's sitting right over there. Nielsen, admin officer, operations chief, field staff, emergency preparedness coordinator, planner, training and exercise coordinator, and then our ISS, our information support services. And then, of course, our maps are there, it's kind of tiny, but those are the regions that we cover. All right, so we're going to get into the types of farm emergencies. And if you can quickly raise your hand if you want to speak, what emergencies do you think could happen on a farm?
This is the interactive portion. I want to hear from you what comes to mind. Fires.
Fires, floods.
Yep. Flooding. What else? What are you worried about?
Ice storms and power failures.
Ice storms, power failures,
Disease.
diseases for animals and plants. Sure. What else? Anybody else worried about something?
A bear.
Yeah, so animals destroying bears. What other kind of animals destroy crops? Deer. Wild hogs. Feral swine, right? Yeah, so these are all really great examples. Again, we said before, you can't prepare for absolutely everything, but you can think about what you're most concerned about, what you're most at risk for, and start to prepare for those things. So we kind of loosely divide things into natural disasters, disease outbreaks is another kind of big category that we talk about, and then man-made incidents. We're going to go into a little more detail about some examples of some of those things. Okay. So what are some examples of, we've already heard a few examples of what we might categorize as natural disasters that you want to be prepared for. An earthquake, right? Are we at high risk of earthquakes here? Not so much, but anything is possible at this point, right? What else? Flooding, for sure. Does anybody feel like their particular farm is at risk of flooding based on where it is? Yeah, so I got a nod right here. That's something that you're concerned about. We've seen in some of the hurricanes over the past 6 to 8 years, some 500-year flood events, 1,000-year flood events, places that have never flooded before. We had places during Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Florence. Who remembers those? The places that flooded twice with both of those. So they had one catastrophe and thought, whew, that must be it for us. That was a 500-year flood. That won't happen again for another 500 years. That's not really what that means, right? What are some other examples?
Drought.
A drought? Yeah, for sure. It's the opposite problem.
What about toxic chemicals like
Yeah.
PFAS?
Yeah, so we kind of think of that in that man-made incident category, but there's a variety of reasons why toxic chemicals might be a problem. Could happen as a secondary result from a natural disaster, right? That destroys. Love what someone was talking about on the panel about how many of us store things in a central location, in a shop or something, and if that is leveled, then all your stuff gets strewn all about. That's certainly something that we see secondary to tornadoes or floods or things like that. So lots of good examples. So severe weather of any kind, which we have no shortage of here in North Carolina. Hurricanes, tornadoes. Y'all remember a few years ago there was really terrible tornadoes that went through Orange County. Flooding, winter storms, extreme cold and extreme heat can certainly be risky for animals if people have animals, for their crops, and for all of you are doing a lot. Why are you just cruising along there? For all of you that are doing a lot of your work outside. So that extreme cold and that extreme heat, fires, and then earthquakes and landslides could be a little less likely here, but I mean, we've got some pretty hilly areas around here. So if that earth is destroyed, like it was in the western part of the state, that can certainly increase your risk, depending on where you're located.
What are some impacts to farms that could occur from the different types of natural disasters? Does anybody want to?
Crop failure.
Crop failure, okay. Anybody else? Erosion? Anything else?
What else? There are lots of different impacts. I just want you guys to kind of think about what's something that concerns you, what's something that pops into your mind about an impact from a natural disaster.
Livestock death.
Livestock death, for sure. Livestock being displaced or lost.
Anyone else?
Destruction of the infrastructure, whether it's fencing or buildings or your farm equipment.
Yeah, so destruction of infrastructure on a farm, in the community.
The
Yes.
quality of the soil after, I think they got spongy sediment.
Yes, that was really big during Hurricane Helene. It was even seeing the pictures in the inside of the homes of what all, you couldn't even, it was so thick. It just was very thick. So that is a good one to say. All right, so through natural disaster impacts for animals, and then agriculture, of course, power outages, transportation, chainsaw crews, debris removal, structural repair, harvest and or disposal, commodity testing, water processing, fuel, donations management. These are some things you need to be thinking about. And I think that, like I had said earlier, when the event happens, when the storm comes, your mind just goes, you just shut down. I mean, I know I do. And I can't remember everything I'm supposed to do. So if you're planning now, plan ahead so that you are prepared and that you are ready. In regards to animals, think about evacuation, transportation, sheltering, that can be impacted as well. Feed and water, equipment and supplies, containment, medical care, euthanasia, mortality management, donation management. So you need to be thinking about all these things that you will be impacted with within your farm.
So we put little stars next to the ones that we saw in Hurricane Helene, right? So all of these are things that we see during natural disasters that happen to the farming community. This is not a theoretical list. This is what we see that happens. And so these are the types of things that we want you all to be thinking about. What are you capable of dealing with on your farm? What are you not capable of dealing with? And who would be your resource to reach out to help you with the things that you're not capable of dealing with, either because of the type of impact that you had, or you know that's a gap for you. Like you said, you cannot be 100% prepared for every single possible theoretical thing on this list. But somebody else is. And so knowing who those relationships are, building those relationships to help bridge the gaps that you know you already have. So, what can you do? What are some steps you can take to be more prepared than you are right now to deal with some of those impacts? What do you think you can do? What are you going to do? Kelly.
Find out who those local resources are and what their contact information.
So Kelly said finding who your local resources are, or knowing who they are, just like Orange County Cooperative Extension. First time I walked in there, everybody was like, how can I help you? What can I do? You all have a wonderful cooperative extension. You've got wonderful emergency management. Y'all have got some great resources in this county, I will tell you. And it's just the fact that they're here to help you. And I think that it's so underutilized so many times that you don't take the time to go and meet who those people are, know those people in your community, because they will be a resource to you in the middle of an event or response, even if it's natural disaster, man-made, animal disease, that kind of thing. So know who they are and write them down. And that's the whole, with the purpose of talking about the farm emergency plan. You've got places you can put your numbers and your information there.
What are some other things you can do? We have them sitting up here on the table. Talked about them this morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fill out your farm emergency.
Farm emergency plan template, for sure. So we've got them up here.
Does everybody have one?
Got paper copies up here, and then they are also, we have little bookmarks here that have a QR code on them, and that'll take you to a link on our emergency programs website where you can download a digital version of it, and you can make it your own. But it's great, like we said this morning, to have this. It's great to think through these things and write things down, especially if you're not at your home or your farm when something happens. You might be out of town, you might just be down the road, access is limited, you may have someone taking care of your farm who needs this information. So again, some of the things that you can do is to understand your risks. So what are you most at risk for? What are you most concerned about? And start there to prepare for those things, making that plan, making sure that someone besides you knows what that plan is in case you are impacted or you're incapacitated, you don't have connection, you're not there. Make sure somebody else can execute your plan. Start to gather some supplies. There are lots of different resources, many of them linked on our emergency programs website, on the types of supplies that you can gather to help yourself be more prepared to deal with emergencies, to help your family, to help your business, to help your animals. So having those supplies on hand, maintaining those supplies so that if something happens, you'll be a little bit more prepared to take care of yourself in those first few days, while, especially if it's a larger scale response, while those government resources or those state resources are getting mobilized, because that takes a little bit of time. Building those relationships, so again, building the relationships with cooperative extension, with emergency management, who's in charge of most emergencies in your county. If you have animals, building a relationship with your veterinarian, building a relationship with other people that have the same types of animals so that you can help each other if something happens. And then again, knowing who to call when something happens, when you need help. And we talked a lot about this morning about not everybody likes to ask for help. We quite often, farmers especially, but many people quite often think someone must have it worse. Someone probably does have it worse. That doesn't mean that you can't ask for help too. Your problems are important and you deserve the help as well.
Right. What are some examples of animal diseases you are concerned about? I know somebody said they're in here to learn more about that. Bird
Someone
flu.
said bird flu. Are there any other animal diseases that people are concerned about?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, just maybe parasites, if you can touch on that, managing parasites within small ruminants.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that level of detail. That is, yes, definitely a concern, and I would encourage you, your livestock agent can definitely help with that here, and then your veterinarian as well can help you come up with a plan that's going to work best for your particular herd.
Mad cow disease.
Mad cow disease, yeah. Bovine spongiform encephalitis.
I can't even pronounce half of those. Anything else? Yes.
Mosquito-borne.
Mosquito-borne.
Mosquito-borne diseases, yeah, all types of vector-borne diseases. We've got mosquito-borne diseases and tick-borne diseases.
Anybody else?
Those are some good ones. All right, so if we're talking about an endemic disease, so that means a disease that we have in the United States that we expect to find in our different animal populations, that is an animal-only disease. So one where humans are not at risk of that disease, then the best resource for learning, there's lots of resources online to learn more about diseases, and I can share those websites with you if you're interested. But private clinical veterinarians are the best resource for dealing with those. So veterinarians in North Carolina, according to our North Carolina Practice Act, in order to prescribe medications for your animals or diagnose your animals with any type of disease, you need to have what's called a veterinary client-patient relationship, which means that veterinarian needs to see your animals and touch your animals. So having that relationship with a veterinarian is super important because they're going to know what's best for your animals. There are some diseases of animals and people that are reportable diseases. So they're reportable to the state, either to the state veterinarian or to public health if it's a human-animal disease. And again, private veterinarians they know those lists and they know which of those diseases have to be reported. Okay, so that's important to understand. There are some diseases that we call foreign animal diseases. Avian influenza is an example. Mad cow disease or BSE is another example. Foot and mouth disease is another example. Who's heard of foot and mouth disease? So that's another example of a foreign animal disease. That means a disease that is not endemic in the United States. It exists elsewhere. And if it happens in the United States, like the avian influenza outbreak that's happening right now, then we are trying to eradicate that disease as quickly as possible so that it does not become endemic in the United States. So those are reportable diseases. Those outbreak managements are run by state and federal authorities. So really important again, but oftentimes it's a private veterinarian that reports that, that understands those symptoms and reports that. Then we've got our subset of diseases, of animal diseases that are considered zoonotic diseases, right? When we use the term zoonotic diseases, anyone know what that means? Do I know?
Spread a hold of humans.
Yes. So zoonotic diseases are diseases that spread between animals and people, or that affect both animals and people. A lot of our mosquito-borne diseases and a lot of our tick-borne diseases are considered zoonotic diseases because people and animals can get diseases from those vectors. So it is important if you have animals to understand the types of diseases that can affect them, to have that good working relationship with a veterinarian that knows your animals. If something looks off with your animals, that you contact that veterinarian because we want to identify diseases, any type of disease, as quickly as possible so that we can get those animals taken care of, right? So it doesn't blow up into something bigger, so that it doesn't kill a bunch of animals, so it doesn't spread to your neighbor's animals.
What are some impacts to farms that could occur from different types of animal disease outbreaks?
If you have an animal disease outbreak in your population, what do you expect? What do you think might happen?
Lower production, growth rates.
Yeah. Lower production, lower growth rates, death, for sure, some types of diseases.
You wouldn't be able to sell the products.
yeah, you might not be able to sell the product. Might have some kind of restriction placed on your farm.
Anything else?
Well, you can't not talk about bird flu and the fact that you might be told to kill your entire flock.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
That didn't happen, yes. So, some of the animal disease, impacts, during an outbreak, of course, mortality, like we just talked about, disposal. We also conduct surveillance testing around at other farms. If we know that it's at one farm, I think we have a certain amount of area that we do the surveillance testing. Sometimes we have to quarantine that farm. We sometimes have to set control areas. Sometimes we have to permit movement of those animals. Decontamination. And then, of course, the most important thing that we talk about all the time is your biosecurity and your PPE. Biosecurity is huge. If you read about some of the HPAI outbreaks, a lot of them can be due to not having that biosecurity within your farm. Can anybody talk about biosecurity or tell me what that is? Protecting yourself from disease. The boots that you wear on the farm, are you walking back into your home with them, or are you going out and coming back and walking back onto the farm? The biosecurity is one of the biggest topics, I think, that I've actually had to learn a whole lot about over the past 2 years, just with HPAI. I know that there's other things, but that is a topic that I think is a huge interest, or should be, if you have a farm, something that you should be thinking about. Other thing, human health surveillance. Sometimes we have to get, well, majority of the time, we have to get public health involved to do some surveillance with the farmers that are working on the farm. If there is an animal disease outbreak, they have to be monitored. We have to monitor your symptoms. And that can be difficult, especially if you don't know who your public health department is, if you don't know who you're dealing with. Some people don't want to talk to them, but that's another community resource that you need to speak with them, get to know who they are, so especially if you've got workers on that farm. They're going to have to be monitoring the farmer's symptoms. Yes, ma'am.
Now that MMWR has been shut down, how is the public health information being disseminated?
Her question was about CDC's weekly publication. MMWR was stopped for a period of time. We did receive it this week, or end of last week, so we'll see if we get it again this week. And that's a publication that oftentimes talks about current outbreaks and things like that. For sure, state public health agencies are still sharing information with each other. In North Carolina, we have decentralized public health authorities, so every county in North Carolina has a health director that's has quite a bit of authority in that county for public health, and so those local health directors can still talk to each other. They can still report data on a state level, and state veterinarians, state public health veterinarians, state public health officials, state animal health officials can still talk to each other all the time. And so there's still a lot of information sharing going on. There's still quite a bit of information available online. So that's a good thing. A lot of it is still there, even though in some cases it may not be actively pushed out the same way that it was before. As far as animal disease mortality, it is really important to understand for the particular species that you have, to at least give some consideration to what you're doing with your dead animals, because there might be local ordinances or regulations. There's certainly state regulations around disposal of dead animals, so it's just important to know and to, again, give some consideration to what you would do if you started having a large number of mortality on your farm, who you might call. You can definitely reach out to the state veterinarian's office. They can help guide you on proper animal disposal. The reason we brought up surveillance testing on this slide is because even if your farm is not affected by an animal disease, you may be close to one, close enough. It might not be right next door, but it might be within, a number of miles from a farm that is affected. So you might have someone come and offer, or if you have commercial livestock or poultry, you might need to participate in some surveillance testing. And again, we're just trying to prevent the disease from spreading. So we're looking to see where else it is, so we can catch things early. And another thing, that permitted movement. So again, if there is a farm that has a disease and we've set up a quarantine on that farm, and we've set up some control areas, some buffer areas around that farm where we're doing surveillance for some time, and depending on what type of animal you have or animal-related product that you have, at least for animal diseases, you may need a special permit to move animals in or animal products in and out of that control area to your own farm, even though you're negative. So we just want to bring some awareness to that. Even if you're not affected, if you're nearby a place that is affected, you might just be caught up in some of this regulatory things that have to happen. So just something to keep in the back of your mind if you have animals. Does anyone have any questions about this? Yes.
Are veterinarians that are familiar with birds available around here?
Yes, actually, they're, if you see me after this, or for anybody else who's interested, on the North Carolina Department of Agriculture's website, the veterinary division has a poultry health section. And if you go to that poultry health section, they're actually actively maintaining, now it's voluntary for people to call and say that they'll see birds, but they maintain a database of veterinarians that are willing to see birds. Yes.
Is that also true of like small ruminants, that there is a database?
I don't know that there's a particular database per se, but in addition to the poultry health section, there's a livestock health section, and so I feel bad speaking for them because they're not here, but I'm sure that you can call them and ask if you need a small ruminant veterinarian.
So the last few things was public information sharing and rumor control. That's very important. Also, sometimes we have to do or not we, but North Carolina Department of Agriculture cancellation of shows, fairs, and exhibits. So, we saw that a little bit last year.
Yeah, so right when this current outbreak of avian influenza started in North Carolina was the beginning of 2022. And there was a period of time where the state veterinarian did cancel shows and exhibits and things like that for poultry. We haven't done it since then. I know that Georgia made the news quite recently by doing that. So again, that's something that could potentially happen for any species if we're particularly concerned about an animal disease outbreak. That's something that the state veterinarian may choose to do. That's something to be aware of if you're someone who shows animals or exhibits them or goes to swap meets and things like that. That's a little bit of it's an accepted risk, right? If you're gonna mix animals and you're gonna go and be with animals and then go back to your own animals, anytime that you're doing that, that's why we talk about that biosecurity and PPE, because you are putting your animals at a bit of an extra risk if you're being around other animals.
So what can you do to be more prepared regarding an animal disease outbreak?
I kind of gave you a few ideas, but if you have any more.
Can you elaborate on good biosecurity?
Yeah, we have, so good biosecurity, it's really about, if we're talking about animals, then it's protecting the animals that you have, trying not to bring disease to them. So that might mean wearing clothes or boots or gloves when working with your animals that are only used for your animals. And if you're going to visit other animals, then you're taking care to change clothes, change boots, wash hands, maybe even shower, depending on what you've done with those other animals before you're coming into contact with your animals. If you have a sick animal, isolating that animal, not sharing equipment and things with your healthy animals. What are some other things? Visitor logs are a really good idea. So who here participates in some agritourism on their farm? Anybody invite the public and visitors? So it's a good thing to think about if you're gonna, or even if you don't, if it's not really a public thing, keeping a log of who's visiting your animals and interacting with your animals. And this goes for plants too, by the way, because plant pests and disease can be spread too. Knowing where those people are coming from, what have they had contact with in the past few days, few weeks. So that gives you an idea of how risky it is to let them interact with your animals. Do they have animals? What kinds of animals do they have? Are their animals currently healthy before you're letting them interact with your animals?
Anything else? Any comments? Yes, ma'am.
Not related to disease outbreak, but related to farm emergency planning in general, is to have a plan for what happens if something happens to me, the owner.
Yes.
Yeah. So what she brought up, if you didn't hear her, was having a plan for what happens to your farm, your business, if something happens to you. So some type of continuity planning for who's going to take care of things, all that kind of stuff. That is super important.
So for preparedness, know your risk, stay informed, have your reputable, I can't say the word, sources, know your veterinarians, know who your vets are. And that was something big during Hurricane Helene was how many veterinarian offices were completely,
Oh, I don't remember.
several. So, know who is in your county. Make a plan, of course, practice biosecurity, and then know who to call. We also have several, I don't know if we've got them up or not, websites that we wanted to share with you all.
I can pull them up when we're done with this. We have a few web resources that we wanted to show you. That again, we have a ton of these already linked on our Emergency Programs website, but we wanted to show you a few. We can do it at the end. Oh, what are we doing? How are we doing?
We are on.
Oh, okay. Yes. We can just go a little faster. So, oftentimes people don't know who to call if they have a problem or they're experiencing an emergency or a disaster. Quite often we call a friend or a family member. We call someone else that has the same type of farm that we do. We call our neighbor. And that's great if you are the only one affected. But if everyone in your surrounding area is affected, then everyone's kind of dealing with their issues. You can help each other, but you might need to call outside resources to come in and help. We've already talked about 911 being a great option. They are going to generally be focused on life safety, especially during a large-scale emergency. They're going to be coming out to deal with life safety issues, and then sometimes those animal issues or those, there's just something related to farmland or farming operation that might not be a life safety issue, then it might, the responders might take a little longer to get to deal with that issue. If you have animals, having that relationship with a veterinarian. There are not a ton of large animal veterinarians anymore, right? It's a tough business to be in, but if an area gets particularly inundated and we're hearing of a need for additional veterinarians to be brought into an area, then we can work with we worked really closely with the North Carolina Veterinary Medical Association during Helene, and we worked with them in past disasters too, to bring more vets into an area for a period of time to help deal with sort of those immediate issues. And then we can't say enough good things about Extension as a partner. Again, lots of services they're able to provide, but you heard Abby and you heard Jonathan and others talk about their networking capability is huge. So Extension is, they've got a ton of state level people, and then they've got people in all 100 counties. And so if something happens in 1 or 2 counties, got 98 other counties that we can leverage to help. So they're a great resource.
And I think they were really good during Hurricane Helene because like 911, it was shut down in those counties up there. Counties like Orange County, Johnston County, they were taking the 911 calls from Western North Carolina to assist. Cooperative Extension, there was Cooperative Extension all across the whole state that was taking calls, and they were getting up there trying to help with all the resources. So, you know, Orange County actually assisted a lot with Hurricane Helene. Even 911, the emergency managers, they were able to help. They're still helping. So I've got several counties where my emergency managers are actually working in Western North Carolina for the next 6 months. So everybody is there. Just know your local. Know in your county who you're going to call. Know exactly what you're going to do.
And, you know, this is something we say in the emergency management realm all the time, is that, but it's very true that disasters start and end locally. And so reaching out locally for assistance is really important, because it's only when those local resources get overwhelmed, they're going to reach out to other counties for assistance, and then they're going to reach out to the state for assistance. But what triggers them reaching out outside of the county for additional, to bring in all those other resources, is that the volume of requests gets high. And so if you're not asking for help and telling those local resources what you need, then, you know, we may not know. We only know what we're told by the community. What is it that you need? That will tell us. And it takes those triggers in order to get more resources, especially from the state level or, you know, the federal level. It takes quite a bit of damage to bring those resources in. So there is a lot that can be done locally or county to county. I did want to briefly touch on, for those who have livestock, there are a couple of resources that I wanted to make mention of here today. We have a North Carolina Animal Emergency Response Working Group that anyone is actually welcome to be a part of. That's a working group made up of lots of state and local partners from all different types of agencies, all working together to try and build resources and help counties build up their capabilities to respond to large animal incidents. So trailer accidents, other types of vehicle accidents, loose livestock, things like that. And then I did want to draw your attention to one particular resource for those large animal services. They're based out of Moore County. They're a large animal technical rescue group. They also do a lot of training. So if you're interested in participating in their trainings to become more capable of knowing what to do if a large animal is stuck or down or injured, or, you know, has a trailer accident problem, that QR code will take you to their website. And they're, again, a great resource for training, and then a great resource for if you have that sort of problem. And then the Animal Emergency Response Working Group has a really excellent manual and some checklists and things like that. So that's the top QR code.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, this is a great website to go to. They have a lot of great resources related
Same as your farm
to-
template, there's extra resources on there that you can fill out and add to your farm template. So I wanted to highlight Anna and that they have done an amazing job with that.
Yep, we do some training programs out of emergency programs. And then North Carolina Terms is the statewide emergency management training website. So if you Google North Carolina terms, there's a lot of different emergency-related trainings on there. I already mentioned Fort Hope's Large Animal Services does training, and then adjacent to this area, kind of based out of Forsyth County, there's a Piedmont Emergency Animal Response Team, and they do a lot of really great trainings as well. A lot of them animal-based, and they put all of their trainings on that North Carolina Terms site. So you can look for trainings there that a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more specific to things you might be interested in. And I did want to show you a couple of websites real quick. But we can take questions.
Any questions while she's finding that? Anybody have any questions for us? Again, there are many, many resources. I was just talking to Mike earlier, and she said if we could just write down all the resources that are available, Cooperative Extension, even on their website, I know sometimes it's overwhelming, but spend 15, 20 minutes just looking at all the different resources that are available to you all. And you know, same with us, our website has a ton of resources on there. And again, you can't prepare for everything, but if you've just got a little bit of preparedness started, it's a great thing. So
That's what I'm getting. I can't make that any bigger as I can.
get down there. So these are the websites right here that.
For some reason, I can't make this text any bigger, but these are some particular websites on biosecurity and animal diseases that are particularly good. We've got all of these linked on our website as well, but if you want more information about animal diseases or a lot of good biosecurity planning resources. Oh, the other thing is, up here, we have a few of these bookmarks.
I think everybody got one in your booklet. If you didn't, let me know.
Yeah, if not, I have plenty of them. And this QR code will take you, it takes you to our website, but it'll zoom you right to the section where we have our farm emergency planning template. You can download a Word version of it so that you can edit it yourself.
Any questions before we close? Well, again, thank you. We're available afterwards if you have any questions. And I think Jonathan just walked in right on time.
Dinner's ready. Let's give our presentation.
Thank you.